Breaking, Patriotic Front issues urgent warning on 2025 constitution changes, Given Lubinda speaks. As Zambia prepares for a historic presidential ceremony, a political bombshell has dropped. The Patriotic Front has issued a public caution, urging citizens not to attend the presidential assent to the 2025 constitutional amendment, commonly known as Bill 7. Why would a major opposition party warn people to stay away from a constitutional event? Is this a political protest, a security concern, or a deeper challenge to the legitimacy of the process? Tonight, we break down what the PF is saying and what it really means. Part 1: Dramatic Hook. Good day, viewers. Welcome to another edition of InspirAfrica Official. I'm Nakash. Well, it's been quite a week here, hasn't it? The kind of week where you think you've seen everything in politics, and then something comes along that makes you sit up and pay attention all over again. And today, we have a story that demands exactly that kind of attention. The Patriotic Front has issued an urgent warning about proposed constitutional changes slated for 2025, and the implications could reshape the very foundation of Zambian democracy as we know it. Picture this: behind closed doors, in the corridors of power where decisions are made that affect millions, conversations are happening. Proposals are being drafted. Constitutional amendments. The very DNA of our nation's legal framework are being discussed. But who's at the table? Who's being consulted? And more importantly, who's being left out? What happens when the rules that govern us all are changed without the voices of the people being heard? What happens when amendments that could concentrate power, diminish checks and balances, or alter the democratic landscape are pushed through under the radar? Can a democracy survive when its constitution becomes a political tool rather than a sacred document that protects every citizen? And here's the question that should keep every Zambian awake at night: if these changes go through, will we recognize our own democracy a year from now? Will the safeguards our forefathers fought for still exist? Or will we wake up to find that the very mechanisms designed to protect us from tyranny have been quietly dismantled? Given Lubinda, the seasoned politician and former Patriotic Front Secretary General, has stepped forward with words that cut through the political noise like a knife. His warning isn't just political rhetoric, it's a clarion call. And the question we must all ask ourselves is simple but profound: are we listening? Factual foundation. The revelation came to light earlier this week when Given Lubinda, speaking at a press conference held at the Patriotic Front headquarters in Lusaka, dropped what many are calling a constitutional bombshell. The date was December 16, 2025. The venue was packed with journalists, party members, and civil society representatives. The atmosphere was tense, you could feel it the moment Lubinda took to the podium. This wasn't your routine political briefing. This was something else entirely. According to Lubinda, credible sources within governmental circles have indicated that a series of constitutional amendments are being fast-tracked for implementation in 2025. The specific details of these amendments have not been made fully public, and that, Lubinda argues, is precisely the problem. The chronology is troubling. Back in October 2025, whispers began circulating among opposition circles about technical committees being formed to review constitutional provisions. By early November, these whispers became murmurs in parliamentary corridors. Legal experts started noticing unusual consultations happening behind closed doors, consultations that typically would involve broader stakeholder engagement. Then, in late November, a leaked memorandum, whose authenticity remains disputed by government officials, suggested that certain amendments relating to presidential powers, the appointment of key judicial figures, and electoral commission independence were under consideration. By December, the Patriotic Front could no longer remain silent. The party convened an emergency National Executive Committee meeting on December 14, where party leadership unanimously agreed to sound the alarm publicly. And so, on that Monday morning, Given Lubinda stepped before the cameras to deliver what the Patriotic Front is calling an urgent warning to the nation. Direct evidence. Let me share with you exactly what Given Lubinda said, in his own words, because this is too important to paraphrase. Standing at the podium, adjusting his glasses, Lubinda began. "My fellow Zambians, we gather here today not as politicians seeking advantage, but as citizens deeply concerned about the trajectory of our beloved nation. The Patriotic Front has received disturbing information that we cannot, in good conscience, keep from the Zambian people." He paused, letting the weight of his words settle before continuing. There are constitutional amendments being discussed, being prepared, in fact, that would fundamentally alter the balance of power in this country. And what concerns us most is not just the content of these amendments, but the manner in which they are being, how shall I say it, the manner in which they are being pushed through without proper consultation. A journalist interrupted, "Mr. Lubinda, can you be specific? What exactly are these amendments?" Lubinda leaned forward. "We have reason to believe that amendments touching on Article 79, which deals with presidential appointments, Article 191 concerning the independence of the Electoral Commission, and provisions relating to parliamentary oversight are all on the table. Now, I want to be clear, we are not opposed to constitutional reform per se. The Constitution is a living document. But it must breathe with the consent of the people, not be suffocated by backroom deals." Another journalist pressed, "Do you have proof of these amendments?" Lubinda's response was measured but firm. "We have seen preliminary drafts. We have spoken to legal experts who have been consulted in what they themselves describe as, highly unusual circumstances. We have documentation that suggests timelines are being compressed in ways that bypass normal parliamentary procedure. So yes, we have proof enough to raise this alarm." He continued, his voice rising with conviction. "The Patriotic Front has always believed in strong institutions. We built institutions during our time in government. We strengthened the Anti-Corruption Commission, we expanded infrastructure, we created systems. And we did it all within the framework of the Constitution. What we are seeing now is an attempt to weaken those very institutions. To centralize power in ways that are, quite frankly, dangerous for any democracy." When asked about the government's response, Lubinda said, "So far, we have heard denials. We have heard accusations that we are fearmongering. But I ask you this, if these amendments are so benign, why the secrecy? Why not publish them? Why not invite the opposition, civil society, the churches, the traditional leaders to review and debate them openly? Democracy dies in darkness, my friends. And right now, there are too many shadows." His closing statement at the press conference was particularly pointed. "We call upon President Hakainde Hichilema, we call upon the government, we call upon the National Assembly release these proposed amendments to the public. Let the people see what is being done in their name. Let us have a national conversation, not a national imposition. The Constitution belongs to the people of Zambia, not to any party, not to any individual. And we will fight peacefully, lawfully, but vigorously to ensure it remains that way." Deeper analysis. Now, let's step back and examine what this means for Zambia's democratic trajectory. Constitutional amendments are not inherently problematic. Every democracy must evolve, must adapt its legal framework to changing circumstances. The question is always, how are these changes made, and who gets to participate in making them? The Zambian constitution, particularly after the 2016 amendments, contains robust provisions for public participation in constitutional reform. Article 79 itself requires that any proposed amendments go through extensive consultation processes. If what the Patriotic Front alleges is true, that these amendments are being fast-tracked without proper consultation, then we're looking at a procedural violation that strikes at the heart of democratic legitimacy. Legal analysts have weighed in from multiple perspectives. Professor Michilo Hansungul, a constitutional law expert, stated in an interview with the Mass newspaper, "The process is as important as the substance. Even good amendments, if imposed without consultation, become tools of authoritarianism rather than instruments of democracy." From the government side, Minister of Justice Malambo Haimbi has dismissed the Patriotic Front's concerns as political posturing. In a brief statement, the minister said, "The government remains committed to constitutional fidelity. Any suggested reforms will follow due process." The opposition's alarmism serves only to create unnecessary anxiety among citizens. But civil society organizations are not so easily reassured. The Zambia Council for Social Development issued a statement calling for immediate transparency and demanding that any proposed constitutional amendments be published and subjected to nationwide consultations before any legislative action is taken. The Catholic Church, through the Zambia Conference of Catholic Bishops, has also entered the conversation, with Bishop Benjamin Fairai stating, "We urge caution and prayer. The Constitution is the people's covenant with themselves. It must never be altered lightly or in haste." What makes this situation particularly complex is the historical context. Zambia has experienced constitutional tensions before. The 1991 constitution that ended one-party rule, the failed 2016 Bill of Rights referendum, the contentious 2016 amendments themselves. Each episode left scars on the body politic, creating deep-seated suspicions about constitutional manipulation. The Patriotic Front's warning also raises questions about political motivation. Are they genuinely concerned about democratic principles, or is this strategic positioning ahead of the 2026 elections? Can both be true simultaneously? Political analyst Laura Mitty offers this perspective. We should take concerns about constitutional integrity seriously regardless of who raises them. Yes, the PF has its own baggage. Yes, they may have political calculations. But that doesn't invalidate the fundamental question: are constitutional changes being made transparently? And if not, why not? The unresolved issue that hangs over all of this is simple: what exactly do these proposed amendments say? Until the full text is released, we're all operating in a fog of speculation, rumor, and political accusation. And perhaps that's the most troubling aspect of all, that in a democracy, citizens should never have to guess about changes being made to their constitution. Well, viewers, there you have it. An urgent warning from the Patriotic Front, delivered by Given Lubinda, about constitutional changes that could reshape Zambian democracy. Whether this proves to be a genuine constitutional crisis or political theater remains to be seen. But one thing is certain: the conversation has begun, and it's a conversation every Zambian should be part of. Thank you so much for watching this edition of InspirAfrica Official. We want to hear from you. What do you think about these proposed constitutional amendments? Should the government release them immediately for public scrutiny? Or are the Patriotic Front's concerns overblown? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's keep this conversation going, because democracy isn't a spectator sport, it requires all of us. We'll continue to follow this story closely and bring you updates as they develop. Tomorrow, we'll be back with more news, more analysis, and more of the stories that matter to Africa and to Zambia. Until then, I'm Nakash, reminding you to stay informed, stay engaged, and stay inspired. Have a blessed day, and we'll see you tomorrow.